people trapped in what would become a dance of death.
There's a bullet. I need somebody to hurry.
There are police cars everywhere. There's crime scene tape all around. It was just absolute chaos.
It was an in-and-out job, a hit to kill this person specifically.
Tonight, only on 2020, the woman caught in the middle between two doctors.
Kind of plot you'd expect from a soap opera.
This is the oldest story in the book. This is vengeance. This is revenge. This is pride.
A dangerous game of cat and mouse.
Accused of hiring a hitman.
There was some kind of a triangle things going on.
But who's the cat?
No part of this is right.
Who's the mouse?
This is a huge whodunit.
A case with no shortage of suspects, a list of ex-girlfriends, a peeping Tom in the backyard, and a con man with his own obsession.
I'm kind of a sassy smart, and we just kind of hit it off.
Characters so villainous, even their own children turn on them.
You made yourself a monster, Dad.
The verdict is in. Unanimous verdict.
What was your mindset going into that first trial?
Let's go get these guys.
There are real sociopaths. Sometimes they sleep in your bed with you.
Okay, game on.
A last dance in Texas.
Good evening, I'm David Muir.
And I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and tonight, a love triangle that started in Texas and went on to make national headlines. Two doctors and a beautiful woman who says she finally found the love of her life.
But right here tonight, what you have never heard until now. That woman caught in the center now speaking out. Ryan Smith with a story that went from dance lessons to dirty tricks to deadly consequences.
On a lazy summer afternoon in Lubbock, Texas.
911, what's the emergency?
A break-in in this neighborhood of stately homes.
Somebody has broken a window in the back, and the doctor did not show up for work today.
Prominent local physician, Dr. Joseph Saunier, is found murdered. A landscaper finds his body.
Oh, no! Oh, God.
Ma'am, what's going on?
Shot and stabbed multiple times.
There's a bullet that was laying on the ground. I need somebody to hurry.
Yes, ma'am.
Zach Johnson, a detective with the Lubbock Police, heads to the scene.
This neighborhood had to be freaked out by this killer.
They were very scared because this doesn't happen, especially to somebody that's so esteemed.
Upon entering Saunier's house, it's immediately clear to Detective Johnson that this isn't a robbery gone bad.
There was artwork in the home. There were very expensive pieces of furniture. There was iPads, all kinds of things just kind of laying around, you know. Nothing was taken. It was an in-and-out job.
In the dining area, Johnson can see where the fatal blows were delivered.
And that crime scene was very succinct. It wasn't spread out. You had the overturned chair, you had the glass on the floor, and you had the casings. So you knew that he was shot right here.
Another clue stands out. A Gatorade bottle lies on the floor near the shell casings from the bullets. Police determine it's a crudely fashioned silencer.
We were dealing with something that was a hit of sorts, that somebody had come to this house and to kill this person specifically.
But who?
To me, it was just mind-boggling. You know, why is this man dead? He's a well-respected citizen in this community. Why is he dead?
Saunier's children are devastated and perplexed. 2 years earlier, their mother had been murdered, and now their father too. For Saunier's oldest son, Dallas, it's a hauntingly familiar scenario.
I knew how to plan a funeral. I knew how to scrub blood off the floor. I knew everything we had to do because I'd already done it once before.
This just doesn't happen.
The statistical likelihood that both parents would be murdered, separate occasions, is unfathomable.
I got the call the day before the 2-year anniversary of my mother's death. I thought maybe it had something to do with her death. That's how out of left field and completely out of nowhere this was.
For Joseph's third son, Philip, there are more questions than answers.
We started racking our brains. Well, it's got to be some type of girlfriend situation. If it's not a robbery, it's somebody he knows.
This all took place in Lubbock, Texas, nestled in the heart of ranching country, a broad and windswept terrain of cotton fields, cattle, and money.
You can't see better sunsets and sunrises and thunderstorms and everything else coming in, but it's the people that drive it. There's no better people probably anywhere in the world.
One of those people is the victim, Joseph Sonnier, a well-known doctor, successful businessman, and multi-millionaire. And as far as women in Lubbock are concerned, unquestionably a catch. He enjoys foreign travel, has a six-figure wine collection, and even makes his own perfume.
He was a single man in his late 40s with disposable income and an empty house.
He's living the single life and having a fun time.
So it wasn't about getting married?
I don't think he would have gotten married again.
At 19, Sonnier married his high school sweetheart, Becky. Dallas recalls his happy childhood with loving parents.
Merry Christmas, Dad.
My dad was the most supportive person in my life. My mom was our emotional support.
Merry Christmas.
He was the one who was going to push us to succeed, push us to follow our dreams.
I just think you're going to be great.
Dallas remembers how his father fell apart when his mother walked out on him after 27 years of marriage for another man.
She was the only person that he had ever been with and ever dated and ever fallen in love with. When they got divorced, it was a shock to him. Everything he'd worked for in his life evaporated in 1 second.
His ex-wife Becky quickly remarried, and to the Sonnier family's horror, she was murdered by her new husband, who then killed himself. James Sonnier remembers how his father helped him and his brothers come to terms with their mother's murder.
He came in after she was murdered, and he became like our guide about how to handle this tragedy.
And the elder Sonnier was still in the process of rebuilding his own life. 48 years old and on the dating scene, Dr. Sonnier takes a chance.
He went, I think on a lark, to a dance class, ballroom and salsa and swing. And through that dance community, he found his confidence again.
And that's not all he finds.
He started to meet beautiful single women, attractive women who were also, in his age range.
So that's how he was able to start dating
and
again.
And he got the mojo back like that.
So how did you feel about the women that he dated?
The truth is, we liked most of them.
Dallas and his brothers had grown up and moved away, but every fall, they joined their dad for a Texas Tech football game. One year, Dr. Sonnier brings a date to their family tailgate.
She's blonde, she's tall, she's gorgeous.
She is Rochelle Shatina, single mother of 4 boys who Sonnier meets at a ballroom dance class.
It's the first date, and he's bringing you around his family, that's nerve-wracking for some people.
I mean, it was the first date. It really wasn't a big deal to me. I certainly wasn't nervous about it.
She knew how to handle herself in a social situation around his sons. We're tough critics, and we gave her a thumbs up.
Like Sonnier, Rochelle is divorced and has grown children. They begin dating, and when things start to get serious, he takes her to visit his grandchildren in Los Angeles.
Where's your head?
We had a great time. She came over to the house. We played with my kids. It couldn't have gone better.
She's a smart girl, aren't you?
While Sonnier is enjoying dating Rochelle, Dallas says his father's feelings do not run to marriage.
In your mind, he was never going to put a ring on it.
That's right.
But Rochelle may want more than casual dating. According to Sonnier's family, she repeatedly tells him how much she wants to get married.
It was constant pressure at every step of the way following the LA trip.
That's not true. What I was looking for was a committed relationship with a good person, and that was it.
A couple of months after the LA trip, Dr. Sonnier tells his son that he and Rochelle were going to Paris.
It was a birthday gift for my 50th birthday. I was just over the moon. It was really a dream come true.
Joseph and Rochelle's romantic getaway includes a trip to the Pont des Arts, a bridge across the Seine River in Paris, famous for so-called love locks that line the bridge by the thousands.
We bought a lock, and Joseph wrote his name on it, and I wrote my name on it, and you throw the key into the Seine River, and that locks in the moment forever.
But for Rochelle and Joseph, forever would only be a matter of weeks. On a sweltering Wednesday in July, Rochelle learns that the love of her life has been murdered.
There are police cars everywhere. There's crime scene tape all around Joseph's house. Emergency vehicles there, reporters there. It was just absolute chaos.
And we know Dr. Sonnier did.
Searching for a killer, the first place police go is to the people closest to the victim. So Detective Zach Johnson's attention turns to Sonnier's girlfriend, Rochelle Shatina.
Meeting with Rochelle that very first time, I don't know a lot about her.
Did you ever have a time where you suspected that Rochelle could in some way have been involved in Dr. Sonnier's death?
You always have to consider people the closest, because 90% of the time, it's going to be the people that are closest to our victims that commit the crime against them.
The police take Rochelle in for questioning. She's on the hot seat, and she starts naming names.
There's just, some girls that he dated, and Joseph would get these horrible text messages, calling him, you're such a whatever.
When 2020 returns.
2020 continues with a last dance in Texas.
Joseph Sonnier, a respected doctor, is found murdered in his home in an upscale Lubbock neighborhood. And the first person homicide detective Zach Johnson wants to interview is Rochelle Shatina, Sonnier's current girlfriend. He brings her in for questioning.
How would you describe your relationship with Dr. Sonnier?
He's the love of my life.
Meeting with Rochelle that very first time, I don't know a lot about her. There were a couple of things that were mentioned by her that struck me as odd.
Rochelle tells Detective Johnson that in the months leading up to the murder, she feels like someone was watching her, following her to the gym.
I'd gone in to work out, and I pulled into the parking lot, and there was this big, creepy-looking guy sitting there, and at the door, like he was looking for someone or watching someone.
She also thinks someone was hiding in Sonnier's backyard, spying on the couple one evening after dance class.
It's dark outside, and Joseph and I both saw a flash from the outside. We laughed and we kind of joked about, maybe somebody was following us.
Detective Johnson asks Rochelle if she knows anyone who might have stalked the doctor or held a grudge against him.
Joseph would get these horrible text messages, calling him and, you're such a and whatever.
And Rochelle has no shortage of theories about suspects. She rattles off a list of Sonnier's ex-girlfriends. She also remembers a letter she received from a mysterious woman named Tina.
And that she met Joseph on the internet, and that they had sex for money, basically. And he said, this is obviously someone trying to drive a wedge in between us.
Police are intrigued by the idea of a love rival, but instead of focusing on Sonnier's dating history, he asks Rochelle about her past lovers. One name is on the tip of her tongue.
He's Dr. Thomas Michael Dixon. He's a plastic surgeon in Amarillo.
Dr. Mike Dixon.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Dixon. If you're considering plastic surgery...
Well known, he's divorced, wealthy, and used to date Rochelle.
He had a med spa in Amarillo, and I went there to get Botox injections.
What attracted you to him?
He was funny, he was very witty, and he was enjoyable. It was, if it can be enjoyable to have somebody put needles in your face, I guess that's about as enjoyable as it could be.
Rochelle and Dr. Dixon had dated for a year and a half before they broke up, and she started seeing Dr. Sonnier.
Did he know about your current relationship?
He knew that I was dating Joseph. He called him by name in a series of text messages, trying to get me to go out with him and to meet him for coffee.
Rochelle says she rejected his advances, but he was persistent.
So he wanted you to see him on the side, basically?
He wanted me to come back to him. I told him no.
But is Dixon the kind of man to take no for an answer? Johnson wants to find out. So he drives 2 hours to Amarillo for a face-to-face conversation with Rochelle's ex that the detective secretly records.
Dr. Dixon, I'm Detective Johnson with the Lubbock Police Department. We've got a case down in Lubbock, and I'm needing to talk to you about it. I told him it was Rochelle's boyfriend. And his first thing was, oh, I don't know anything about him.
I don't know anything about him. I haven't talked to her in months and months.
And I was like, okay, well, that's a little odd because in our interview with Rochelle, she told us that he knew about the relationship.
You know, I'll be honest with you, I love that woman. I really did.
He was obsessed with Rochelle. He was having a lot of problems getting over this breakup. He just couldn't seem to let her go.
For Detective Zach Johnson, alarm bells were sounding.
I really had fallen head over heels. In fact, made a lot of life changes for her.
He's very upfront about, yeah, I wanted her back.
Dixon recalls how their relationship ended when he failed to propose to Rochelle on her birthday and instead gave her a subscription to a Tea of the Month club.
And she went ballistic and said, well, it didn't. I remember clearly, it's not a big rock. And I said, no, it's not. Like a wedding ring.
It wasn't about the fact that it was tea. Tea is lovely. I don't happen to drink it. He was not present in any emotionally supportive aspect of my world.
But despite Rochelle's unhappiness with him, Dixon says they kept in contact after their breakup, exchanging texts, and he says they even planned a weekend getaway to a resort.
She was like, hey, you want to put this back together? And I was like, yeah, I did. And so let's plan a trip, blah, blah, blah. The next day, she's like, hey, sorry, I'm in love with my dance partner.
He still loves her. He's got a lot of feelings for her, but boom, she drops the hammer on him and says, oh, by the way, I'm in love with my dance partner.
Some would say, well, you're throwing it in his face a little bit.
Well, no, I wasn't throwing it in his face. There was, an ugliness from him to me.
Dixon seems like a likely suspect, but he has an alibi the night of Sanye's murder, as do Rochelle Shatina and those ex-girlfriends. Detective Johnson is stumped.
There's something not right here. This is a huge whodunit.
Until Johnson gets the call all detectives pray for. It's from a tipster who offers a new name that could crack the case.
His name is Dave Shepard, S-H-E-P-A-R-D.
But who is Dave Shepard? Stay with us.
"2020 continues with Ryan Smith and a last dance in Texas.
Homicide detective Zach Johnson is desperately trying to unravel a tangled web, but he has no viable suspects in the murder of Dr. Joseph Sanye until he gets a phone call.
What was it that broke this case wide open for you?
When Paul Reynolds called the police department.
My name's Paul Reynolds. I'm trying to get some information to some folks, and we think we got a crime that happened down here in Lubbock. It's a homicide.
Who is Paul Reynolds?
Believe it or not, there are good people in the world, and Paul Reynolds is one of them.
Reynolds is a registered nurse, down on his luck when a childhood friend named Dave Shepard offers to let him crash on his couch. He offers to tell police everything he knows.
So I crashed on his couch. He kind of started in with just weird talk.
According to Reynolds, Shepard starts acting strangely, telling wild, violent stories of killing a man in Lubbock. Incredulous, Reynolds Googles the information only to discover that the murder is real.
And then these stories started to come out.
Reynolds tells investigators that, coincidentally, Shepard is a good friend of none other than Rochelle's ex, Dr. Mike Dixon. The investigation takes a turn, zeroing in on Shepard.
And tell me about y'all's relationship, how it evolved.
He's quick-witted. I'm kind of sassy, smart, and we just kind of hit it off.
Shepard tells investigators he and Dixon bonded over cigars and martinis at local hangouts in Amarillo, commiserating over their ex-wives.
Smoking cigars is a very sociable thing, and we just connected and hooked up.
So y'all just happened to meet up in the cigar shop?
That's it, and kind of had a connection.
Shepard's daughters, Haley, Abigail, and Rachel, speaking exclusively to 2020 about the strange bond between their father and Dr. Mike Dixon.
Dad was definitely obsessed with Mike.
Really?
He had a big man crush on Mike.
It was an unlikely bromance. Dixon, a successful plastic surgeon, and Shepard, a divorced, unemployed con man.
So what did your dad see in him?
His money and his success.
Dad wanted to be Mike.
Shepard may have been obsessed with Dixon, but Dixon was obsessed with someone else, Rochelle Shatina.
He left his wife for her. You know, she broke up his marriage, and he just wanted to, I guess, pay back.
David Shepard does come in and tells us exactly what happened.
So he tells you everything.
This whole thing was like this stair step, and it started at the very bottom of these stairs as being a prank.
Shepard tells police that it all began harmlessly enough, trying to tarnish Dr. Saulnier's reputation in the hope that Rochelle would break up with him and run back to the arms of Dixon.
What were some of the things they came up with?
They were gonna get this porn subscription, like child gay porn, and they were gonna send it to Dr. Saulnier's office.
Go to an adult bookstore and buy the most obscene, nastiest man-boy love association book he could, and buy him a subscription and send it to his office. Because I said, that's a gift that'll keep giving.
They were thinking that was gonna ruin his reputation, his professional reputation.
Thinking more like teenagers than grown men, they concoct ridiculous schemes to humiliate Dixon's rival, like hiring a stripper to pretend to be Saulnier's girlfriend so that Rochelle will think he's two-timing her. As the months go by and Rochelle is still dating Saulnier, Dixon becomes desperate.
He said, we have to follow him and to figure out where he's at. He goes, hey, what are you doing? Let's take a little trip to Lubbock.
They drive the 120-mile stretch of highway between Amarillo and Lubbock.
And next thing I know, he tells me that Rochelle and Dr. Saulnier take these dance classes. And he showed me where the dance class was, where to go.
Shepard spends months in Lubbock watching the lovers. Turns out it was Shepard who scares Rochelle in the early morning hours when he's staking out her gym. And it's Shepard who, in a brazen move, breaks into Saulnier's backyard and takes this accidental selfie. The flash alerting Rochelle and Saulnier inside.
It looked like a camera flash, and we kind of shrugged our shoulders and said, that was weird.
Shepard fails to dig up dirt on Saulnier, so Dixon grows impatient.
Was there a specific act that he was wanting done? Was that what y'all were discussing?
Yes.
And what was that?
He wanted him hurt, and then it gradually developed into having him killed.
After hours of interrogation, an exhausted Shepard gives police a blow-by-blow of what happened that night. A full confession. July 10th, 2012 is the last night Shepard will stalk his prey. He breaks into Saulnier's backyard, armed with a gun and a knife, and lies in wait. Saulnier comes home, makes himself a drink after a long day at work. Suddenly, Shepard is at the back window.
Pull the gun out of the bag with the Gatorade on it. I point the weapon with the bottle at him.
Shepard pushes through the window and fires, emptying his gun into Saulnier. The doctor somehow finds enough strength to stumble out of the room to get away. But Shepard is in pursuit and finds him in the garage where he stabs him 11 times.
He's laying on the floor, not moving, not breathing, nothing. I check his pulse in his neck. He's dead.
There's so much blood, it seeps under the garage door to the outside.
He's a murderer. He's a liar. He's a thief. He's an embezzler. He's lots of things. As far as his role in this, I think he was a pawn for Mike Dixon.
So District Attorney Matt Powell offers Shepard a deal. Rat out his good friend, Dr. Mike Dixon, in exchange for a life sentence instead of a death sentence. But who will the jury believe? A respected plastic surgeon or a convicted con man? And would one of them not live to tell?
Now, more of 2020 and a last dance in Texas.
Despite the fall chill rolling across the outer western plains, in downtown Lubbock, things were heating up as the biggest murder trial this town has ever witnessed kicked off.
This prominent plastic surgeon,
Dr. Michael Dixon,
accused of hiring a hitman, friend and business partner David Shepard.
I cannot believe that they did this. It makes me so angry. A low-life scum and a piece of doctor.
When Dr. Mike Dixon was arrested and brought to trial for his role in Dr. Joseph Saulnier's death, Dallas Saulnier was hell-bent on bringing his father's suspected killers to justice.
What was your mindset going into that first trial?
Let's go get these guys.
But as always, there's another side to this story, and there was another son in that courtroom.
He was a good dad. He still is a good dad.
Andrew Dixon, convinced his father is innocent.
They're trying to prove him guilty, and he's fighting for his life. I mean, it's just terrifying and so sickening.
The man tasked with putting Andrew Dixon's father away, a hard-charging Texas district attorney named Matt Powell.
Mike Dixon's running this show, and he orchestrated this whole thing.
Now, many people make the argument that Mike Dixon never laid a hand on Dr. Saulnier.
He's just controlling the knife. Dave Shepard's just another instrument for Mike Dixon.
And that instrument, Dave Shepard, has agreed to testify, pitted against his best friend Mike Dixon to avoid the death penalty.
This is the oldest story in the book. This is vengeance. This is revenge. This is pride.
The motive? In courtroom 72 of the Lubbock County Courthouse, the prosecution paints a picture for the jury of Dixon as an obsessed, calculating puppet master.
He either wanted her to suffer or he wanted her back. And only he knows what the true answer to that question is. But Dr. Saulnier was in the way.
The pillars of Powell's case, police find the gun Shepard used at the bottom of a lake conveniently located behind Dixon's office and discover it's registered to Dixon's brother. And they also find surveillance videos from the day after the murder. That's Shepard in the plaid shirt, Dixon in blue, the two hanging out, thick as thieves.
Was there any discussion about when the police went over there and spoke to him?
He was nervous, so I had to get out of town.
But he didn't. Instead, Shepard attempts suicide. He slits his wrists. When he fails, who does he call for help? His buddy Mike. Here they are. That's Shepard towering over Dixon as they head into the doctor's office to stitch Shepard up.
So he sews your hand up, and does he discuss anything with you in reference to Saulnier?
Told me I need to keep my cool.
Prosecutors also have a myriad of incriminating text messages between Shepard and Dixon, as Shepard stalks Saulnier for months. Messages from Dixon ordering Shepard, you have to stay close, watch him in the AM, go get him, and put it on him. Finally, what's the price for murder between friends? Police say Dixon paid Shepard for the hit in the form of a box of Cuban cigars and 3 silver bars. Bars that turned up at this pawn shop in Amarillo. 1 before the murder, 2 the day after the murder, sold by none other than Dave Shepard.
In terms of demeanor, he didn't strike you one way or the other, it sounds like? Not at all. A couple days later, he's on the front page of the paper.
I was blown away.
But Dixon's lawyers have an explanation for all of this. First, the gun used. They say Shepard stole it from Dixon's home. Defense attorney Frank Sellers shows me where.
They came in here, they're picking out a cigar to smoke, and Shepard opens this drawer here, and it's a gun.
So that's how Shepard knew a gun was in that drawer?
Exactly.
And the silver bars? The defense says they were for a business investment, not a murder for hire. They say Dixon only wanted Shepard to try to take photographs of Saulnier out with other women, to show Rochelle Saulnier wasn't all he was cracked up to be.
In the days before they leave for Paris, he says, it's gotta happen tomorrow because the trip is imminent. It almost sounds like somebody's trying to say attack or hurt somebody imminently.
We believe it was an attempt to make the trip uncomfortable. Get the photographs.
And they say this was all because Dixon was upset. He believed Rochelle was throwing her new relationship in his face.
Rochelle was posting on Facebook all the time how Dr. Saulnier was 10 times the man that Mike Dixon would ever be, and he wanted to show Rochelle that she was wrong.
So from your perspective, it wasn't about Rochelle Shatina, it was about Mike Dixon and his ego.
Right, if he was obsessed with her, he'd have been following her.
Were you in any way trying to flaunt your relationship?
He was blocked from my Facebook page. So was I flaunting anything? No.
Dixon's attorneys say Dave Shepard simply went rogue when he killed Saulnier.
Do you at least admit that he planted the seed by even discussing this relationship?
Planted the seed for a murder? No, absolutely not.
Mike is morally responsible for David Shepard being down here, but not for the purpose of killing Dr. Sonnier. Mike Dixon never wanted that to happen.
I asked him, "You sure you want to do this, Mike?" I said, "Have you ever, when you kill somebody, that'll affect you from the rest of your life. You'll have nightmares, it'll bother you." And he goes, "Doesn't bother me."
And when it was time for the trigger man to testify against his best buddy in open court, the Sonnier family was sitting front and center.
He had a chance to get up there, confirm his story, point to that guy as the person who paid him to kill my dad, and end it all.
He does end it, but not in the way Dallas wants. Shepard is about to drop a bombshell.
But Daddy, why didn't you tell them?
And make his own flesh and blood despise him.
You've made yourself a monster, Dad.
When we come back.
#2020 continues with Ryan Smith.
When the convicted murderer Dave Shepard took the stand at his best friend Mike Dixon's trial, he was facing the victim's family, the jury, but perhaps most poignantly, his 3 daughters, Rachel, Abigail, and Haley. And they are not here to defend their father.
You were in that courtroom to get closure.
We were there more in support of the Sonnier family.
Right.
Yes. Our heart was broken for them.
Shepard's daughters saying their father is a murderer.
And do you think that Mike Dixon paid your father to kill Dr. Sonnier?
Yes. Yes.
But on the stand, a shocking twist nobody saw coming.
Shepard himself has basically denied all of his previous testimony.
Shepard's confession was expected to put Mike Dixon away. This is what he said.
They said, "Well, just go behind him when he's not paying attention, hit him with a board." I said, "You could probably kill him." And Doc went like that. We'll talk about that later.
But in the courtroom, he suddenly changes his story and says Mike Dixon never asked him to kill Sonnier, letting his friend completely off the hook.
You begin to question him. What happens?
Well, he completely digressed from what his statement was to law enforcement and the fact that Mike Dixon didn't have any involvement in this deal.
The veteran prosecutor, blindsided.
What's going through your mind?
Okay, game on.
In that moment, I've never hated anyone more than I've hated him in my entire life.
The Shepard daughters, also watching, are embarrassed and ashamed.
It was cowardly. I mean, he has a chance to make it right, and he completely ruined it.
Why do you think he did that?
He was trying to help out his buddy.
The girls, compelled to do something extraordinary. They apologize to the Sonnier family for what their father has done.
What did you say to them?
We are so sorry for what he has done to you and what he's continuing to do to you.
And after Shepard changes his story, back in jail, his daughters confront him. It's a rare and raw look at a fractured family.
But Daddy, you didn't tell the truth.
I did.
You didn't say anything. You just kept saying that you wouldn't tell them.
But I did. But
why didn't you tell? No, you didn't, Dad. You said, "I plead the fifth. I'm not going to answer that." No part of this is right. None of it will ever be right.
There's nothing I could do.
No matter what you do.
They think I'm some kind of a monster.
You've made yourself a monster, Dad.
I mean, and you were literally breaking down in tears.
It was frustrating. I felt like I was scolding a child. Like, I just want you to answer my question, and then you can go back to timeout.
But the damage was done. If Shepard hoped to free his friend, it works. The case ends in a mistrial.
The only reason for the hung jury was David Shepard's testimony.
Regardless, DA Matt Powell is undeterred.
Matt Powell comes into the room where we're standing, and without blinking, he says, "We are going to get this guy. We're going to do this again. Don't you worry. I've got you." And that's all I needed to hear.
A second trial is scheduled, delaying a homecoming for Andrew Dixon's father, who once lived in this big Texas spread with a canyon as his backyard.
You look so happy.
He was a good dad. He did dad things, you know, kind of American dream kind of stuff.
But that dream was over. The nightmare truth is Andrew's father is facing capital murder charges, And the second trial begins.
Amarillo Dr. Michael Dixon is back on trial.
And this time around, prosecutor Matt Powell has a new witness.
The number one most important thing from this second trial was the unbelievably courageous testimony of Haley Shepard.
Next, Dave Shepard's own daughter Haley takes the stand, and what she recalls about a simple steak dinner will stick a fork in this case once and for all.
What did you say on the stand?
2020 continues with a last dance in Texas.
Lubbock, Texas. Haley Shepard, the hitman's daughter, is on the stand. She takes the jury back 3 years, and you'll see why. It's a hot summer night in Amarillo, Texas. Her father, Dave Shepard, treats his daughters to a fancy steak dinner, served with a side of suspicion.
He had some money. I got a nice steak.
Shepard's daughters say that night their typically cash-poor father bragged about buying a new grill and new tires for his SUV.
Dad had money out of the blue. He just randomly had money, and he did never have money.
For his older daughter, Haley, there was also a brand new cell phone.
We all asked him, how do you have money? And his words were, I did some work for Mike, and he paid me early.
This time, the prosecutor calls her, not her father, to testify in Mike Dixon's retrial.
And you think that was a prepayment for killing Dr. Sanye?
In retrospect, absolutely.
For victim Joseph Sanye's family, Haley's testimony is a game changer.
She got up there and said, at dinner I asked my dad, I said, where'd you get this money? And David Shepard says to her, I did some work for Mike. He paid me early. Don't ask what I did for him. Game over.
It takes a new jury only 3 hours to deliberate.
And my hand was shaking like this because I knew we got a guilty verdict. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it.
And he's right.
The verdict is in. Unanimous verdict.
Guilty on 2 charges.
Mike Dixon is convicted on 2 counts of capital murder.
What was your first reaction?
I had to turn to my wife and I had to say, he said guilty, right? He said guilty. We've been waiting for that moment for over 3 years.
For the Sanye brothers, it's finally closure.
When you look at the photos of him, smug smile. When you look at his mugshot from his arrest, smug smile. And he has had that smile for both trials, and it was so great to be able to know that we finally wiped that smile off his face.
Still,
he's lost everything. Time with his family.
Another son, Andrew Dixon, remains convinced his father is innocent.
When you think about the fact that he has to spend the rest of his life in prison without parole, how does that make you feel?
It's unreal. It's like a nightmare. You lay your head down at night and it's just always there. Always in the back of your mind, everything.
Remarkably, Dave Shepard's daughters have accepted both men's fate as justice served.
I know you guys don't talk to your dad a lot right now, but if you could, what would you say to him?
We're doing very good. We are all okay.
We're okay without him. I think he's where he needs to be.
As for the woman at the center of it all, Rochelle Shatina has a warning.
There are real sociopaths and psychopaths that walk amongst us. They're charming. They sit at the dinner table with you and your children, and sometimes they sleep in your bed with you. They're not capable of feeling love for you or empathy for anyone. When you see that, don't ignore it. Get out. Run as fast as you can.
Tonight, Rochelle Shatina has put Mike Dixon out of her mind, but says Joseph Sanye will always have a place in her heart.
I would tell him I loved him, and that I'll always love him, and I would just tell him how sorry I am.
Both Dave Shepard and his one-time best friend, Dr. Mike Dixon, are now serving life in prison without the possibility of parole. Dixon's lawyers are appealing that verdict.
And that is our program for tonight. But be sure to join us tomorrow night for a special 2020 Saturday. I'll have the very latest on the major new turn in the Bill Cosby case. I'm Elizabeth Vargas.
And I'm David Muir. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, thank you for watching tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
That's right.
Good night.